Okay, we're recording this on February 21st, about a month and a few weeks, I think, after the event, after the Co-op Cup first to tens,
It was January 11th or
January
January
11th.
January 10th. Sorry, they
Yeah.
uploaded it like the day after.
So like a month and a week after, and we're gonna Shodokan is joining us today, and we're gonna watch the show versus Michael first to ten. That started off the whole event, right?
Yeah, and I think it's funny that you asked me to watch this because I got to play Michael at Co-op Cup.
Ah, how'd that go?
I eliminated them from the tournament.
So no, we have no better a person to analyze this exhibition with than
I got
Shotokan,
both sides of the coin. I got my butt whooped, and then I managed to win when it mattered.
right? So how'd you feel about the event in general?
It
Like
was
just the idea of the first to tens and as a replacement for Co-op Cup.
as a replacement for Co-op Cup, it was something that was interesting as far as to give something back to the community.
Hmm.
Um, but I definitely think I don't know how much of a donation drive they actually did while they were doing it because I know Matsuda was having issues with the whole Hulik Hall stuff and not getting or being able to get a refund and all that stuff. So like, maybe if that was showed a little bit more,
Hmm.
I think that would have been good because they deserve it,
Right.
right? They deserve the support of the community, and they've gotten it in the past, and they deserve to continue to get it from everyone.
Hmm.
Um, but as far as like the matches go, it was definitely a lot of interesting matchmaking because, um, like talking about Michael versus Show, they play all the time, right?
Mm.
They're good friends, and so is Boss with Michael. So is Boss with Show. Like most of these people that played in this event, like they're friends or they've played forever, and they know each other well enough that they're going to be doing a lot of things. It's not just matchup specific, right?
Right. It's player
So it's
specific.
like, yeah, um, and like that's really cool to me.
Right.
Um, and I've always thought that having events like this is important for the community. Like you guys did your Third Strike Fight Club stuff
Hmm.
and all that, and that was cool to watch. But it's a huge time commitment to watch like six first attempts,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I
All
didn't
of
even make it
the
to the end. I had to watch the VOD.
Yeah, I was gonna say that like I managed to stay up through about halfway through Hayao versus
That's
Genki,
exactly that's
and then I
exactly when I
fell
went.
asleep.
Yeah,
I couldn't do it, and it was at no fault of the event itself or the
no,
players.
it's,
It was like
it was
2 a.m. I was sleepy. So it's gonna be interesting, kind of revisiting these first attempts for me because I haven't. I've had this idea to watch them with relevant players and relevant eyes. So I've kind of like abstained from watching them on my own because I kind
yeah,
of want like a fresh pair of eyes on this.
right.
So I'm excited to have you on for sure,
I did my own podcast with Genki, which I still have to release like a
dude.
couple days before this actually happened. So
Got to
he
do
was
it.
he was super excited for that. Yeah, I have to edit
Got to
it.
do it. Maybe it'd be a good idea to reach out to Genki, see if
Yeah,
he wants to come on
I'm sure
himself.
he'd love
So before we get to the actual first to ten, I want to know in a vacuum, what do you think about Chun-Li versus the world or Yun versus the world? Which
to.
character
So
is better in a vacuum?
Genei is busted. We all know this. Um, and Genei when optimized and taking advantage of every aspect of it, is the best thing in the game, hands down. So it just comes down to is the Yun able to get that activation and make the most use of it.
Mm-hmm.
So at task level play, Yun's the best character in the game.
Mm.
But in the stark reality is that the other characters in the game don't require, you know, the finesse or execution or whatever that's necessary to master every matchup that
Mm-hmm.
is that you need because of how little Yun life that Yun has,
Mm.
right? Like he can't compete with a lot of the characters at the spacings that they're strongest. So, it's more of like he has a very specific style that needs to be played against certain characters that you can alter based on, how you like to approach Oki or how you like to approach very specific things.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, like the game plan's the same,
Right.
right? So like Chun is the best character in the game in an actual standpoint, like from what humans are capable of, because of, how easy it is that she has it versus, the other top tier characters in
Mm.
a lot of the matchups, right? You look at some of the tier lists and, people have Chun-Li as like 7-3-8-2 in some of these, matchups. In opinions change over time.
Mm-hmm.
I still think that, in a vacuum, Yun beats Chun, but in reality, Chun beats Yun.
Mm.
Like there's too many variables to be accounted for, but if everything is perfect, Yun wins.
Right.
But perfection in this game is one of the hardest things to attain, and is arguably not attainable, right?
Yeah.
Because of
And that's what makes high level play exciting for the most part. Is
exactly.
the fuck ups.
But it's also one of the things that, you know, forces people to approach the game differently.
Mm.
Like there's that whole video of Nuki talking about why Daigo hates the game, and he goes over the guard jump option select, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like the one thing that people don't understand about option selects in these games is that there is a downside. There's
Mm.
always a downside. There's no catch-all.
Mm-hmm.
So like, well, yes, there are a lot of things that you can do. That's when the actual mind games occur,
Mm.
right? And getting to that point is very difficult for a lot of players. But for the higher level players, Daigo didn't like it because he wasn't guaranteed his mix, so to speak.
Right.
Um, when he makes a correct decision and gets that knockdown or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
the opponent, even if you're plus, okay, well, now they have to decide, is he going to even go for another button?
Mm-hmm.
Because in other games, if you're plus, you're going to use that advantage. In Third Strike, you have to second guess if you want to use that advantage, because your opponent can, blue parry in most situations, red parry in some others.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, do I want to press my advantage? What's my opponent going to do?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot more mental gymnastics necessary to play Third Strike at a high level than other fighting games.
Right. And it's not and it's obviously not that um that players can't do it, but it's just I think Third Strike is just so much different in the way that pressing advantage looks. It doesn't look the same, you know.
No, and
As
you also have
practically every other fighting game, pressing advantage looks very different.
absolutely, but you also have to approach other things differently too.
Mm-hmm.
The risk reward in this game is different from basically every other fighting game.
Mm.
So like, there's definitely a stark contrast between Third Strike and every other fighting game. But like you said, that's why a lot of us love this game.
Right. And so just to kind of put a bow on the Chun versus Yun thing, you think in a practical sense, Chun-Li is the best character in the game.
In a
But
practical
but
sense,
in a theoretical sense, Yun should be the best character in the game, just out of sheer potential.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And I
He has so much set play. He has so many things that still to this day probably aren't fully optimized or explored. Which I love training mode, so I try my best to find what I can. But there's still a lot of things left to be found. Like I don't know if you've seen Inoue Oro posting stuff on Twitter. Like
mm-hmm.
he's finding all sorts of new unblockables with that character that weren't haven't been seen really. So it's like this game is still getting new things 2 decades later, and that's beautiful.
Right. Yeah, it's I'm happy to hear that we're kind of on the same page with that.
Hmm.
Because when I went to Japan, particularly the second time, I had this idea in my head at the end of the trip that Yun was the best character in the game,
Hmm.
but I didn't. One of the things that I didn't take into account on in coming to that conclusion was that I had spent an disproportionate amount of time playing against the best Yuns.
Right.
They were, I was playing against Yakun a lot. I was playing against Sho a lot. I was playing against Issei a lot, and the thing that I didn't consider was that I didn't play any low level Chun-Li's over there, right?
No.
And so, but the one thing that I did feel when I played against Yun, as strong as he is that there are at least instances where I have an advantage on him on the screen, and as long as I can maintain that advantage, then there's very little that Young can do without taking a ginormous risk.
Right.
But against the Chun-Li's that I played, it didn't matter what level they were. There was literally no time on the screen, and maybe that's particularly against Ken. Like,
Right.
even when you knock her down, there's no real moment of Chun-Li has to take a huge risk in order to get her advantage back.
Right.
And after thinking about it for a while, I was definitely on that Yun was the best character, but I didn't think about it from a practicality point of view.
Right.
And maybe watching this first attend the first time made me feel that way. And it's not, I think very highly of Michael's Chun-Li, but it just never felt that Sho was in control even during the matches that he won. It just felt like he was on a high wire, doing a high wire act the whole time. And I know that they know each other, but it's still, I think that there's something to even some of the rounds that Michael stole. Like, there's something to that being a very Chun-Li specific thing.
So, right. But the one thing that this match stuck out to me is you watched Ushi play against Deshiken, obviously. Ushi, in my opinion, did not play like himself in that set, right? I don't think Sho was Sho in this. And I don't want to give him excuses or, anything like that. But if you watch Sho in this set and then you watch Sho against Boss 4 hours, it's a different player.
But do you think that was the familiarity, or was there any other factors?
There might have been other factors, they may have changed out the sticks, and they may be used to playing on more used sticks. They may be used to playing on new sticks.
Right.
We don't know what the situation is. He could have been nervous. He could have.
First match of the day.
There's all sorts of.
There's also another level of electricity, when it's the first match of the tournament of the event.
Especially one where it's like, the up and coming Chun, because inarguably,
right,
Michael is the most active and most improving Chun in Tokyo.
Yeah, I had a question about that I'm gonna save until after we watch the set. But there is something, and it has to do with little things that I notice about Michael's gameplay that touches on that point exactly. But I think that was a good primer to the actual match. So
Sure.
let's get to it.
There was a risky shoulder.
Yeah, off the bat. Maybe those are the nerves you were talking about.
Yeah, but also Michael was at the max distance for standing fierce, where if he tapped forward, he would have been in range. So I can see why Sho went for what he did. He was expecting forward movement, or he was expecting fierce.
Yeah. See, that's
Frame trap. Upon loop. Reset.
that's one aspect of the Yuns that I don't see other than like Sho and you, and like outside of Japan. It's just going for those resets that get you like the most meter.
Especially when you know that you're not going to put yourself at advantage.
Right.
Like damage wise, like you get a 1-2-3 against a standing opponent and you have to get them to the corner. It's like, okay, well, if I get my mix up, then I'm not really much worse off than if I,
to finish the combo.
Yeah.
They got scaled
strong,
garbage
but,
combo.
Yeah. These,
I like how Michael is just patient. You know, he's just willing to stand still.
so one of the things about this matchup that a lot of people don't understand is Chun-Li is strongest like when she's 3/4 of the screen away against Yun. And the reason for this is because of how strong her crouching medium kick is as a actual meter build, and it also lets her 100% react to jumps.
Right. It's a safe way to build meter.
Right. It's a safe way to build meter, and it's also like, you know, something that non-Japanese Chun-Lis don't use properly. They don't play the patient game that you need to against Yun. Because
Right.
yeah, you're gonna have situations like this where Sho backed himself into a corner, and just like Nuki, Michael dashes forward to cover that space, knowing that, you know, he just jumped back, he can't do anything.
Right.
So I'm gonna dash forward, corner him, and force him into making a decision. And then obviously he made the wrong decision.
Right.
But
It's like active patience.
yes,
Yeah. It's like I see a lot of Chun-Li's like take that approach where they'll only press low forward if they're in range for like the hit confirm, you know?
and that's not necessarily how it should be used.
Right, exactly. Build the meter with the button that in case
But
they do
just
get in there. Yeah, go ahead.
an important thing here is a lot of the times, you know, you and I have had conversations that was
sick.
stick. But you and I and Lloyd and I have conversations about like Yun, after an opponent hits you with something or you block something, where you do crouching medium punch to build meter because you know you can get away with it. If you watch Michael, there are certain things that Sho does where he just presses a button immediately afterward because he knows it's safe. Because he can get that meter build and there's no, you know, reason not to do it.
Right, there's no real risk attached to it.
No real risk attached.
There's like the incidental risk, but that's not real.
And Chun needs meter build as much as Yun does.
Yes. Wow, that was so
such a
good.
stupid activation.
Yeah. That was like the maybe he didn't believe I don't know, he had to believe, right? He's got to know that Michael has that in the bag.
Yeah, but that was, you know,
maybe a little autopilot.
a little bit.
Yeah.
But like the spacing that he's keeping is pretty optimal as far as like where he's neutral jumping. But the difference between what Michael's doing and what a lot of other Chuns do is that he doesn't try to force his way forward. He'll stay where he is and react to the decision.
Right.
You know, Lloyd, you know, he thinks to his detriment sometimes, has that approach to dive kicks, right? So like, you know, that's definitely something that I noticed watching this the first time and seeing it again, is that when he's at that range where, you know, Sho is pretty optimally spaced for, you know, jumping heavy punch or, you know, mixing up his dive kick options, he's fine to just sit there.
Right.
Because at that exact spacing, as you can see, it also leaves you able to react to shoulders. So being patient at that one spacing, you don't have to be building meter. You know, people think that as Chun-Li, you need to be forcing your opponent to make decisions by pressing buttons or, you know, making them guess what you're going to do. And it's the complete opposite, because Chun-Li gets so much pressure out of just standing where she needs to be.
Right, standing in the correct range. Like,
Yes.
that's as much as threatening as, like, you know, Ken on somebody's wake up.
Right. And, you know, that patience right there, he literally just got to the point on the screen, usually right here, like right where the stun bar is,
Yeah.
right? If Sho is to the left of his own stun bar, he'll stay where his stun bar is, because Sho then cannot move the screen. It has to move forward. He can't run anymore.
Right.
So that's when you can make the decision to move forward based on what Sho is deciding to do with his space.
Yeah. And interestingly, it also like cuts down on the offensive options that Yun has if you're like
Correct.
standing at that spot, because they can't just like jump over you for free. Like
Yep.
Yun can't jump over Chun for free. He has to like contend with her.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Because if she's 2 spaces forward, he can super jump over her for free.
Exactly. But right there, it's like it's the perfect spot. Yeah. See.
But there's one thing that's important while watching Michael, is that he's a ground-based Chun-Li and he does not contest in the air.
Right.
unlike,
Move.
arguably one of his main mentors, MOV likes to do like jump back light kick. He likes to
Yeah.
do like
Jump back
jump
medium kick.
forward stomp,
Yeah.
like a bunch of things. Michael just stands there
Mm-hmm.
because he knows that there's very little risk to doing that.
Yeah, and you saw he was willing to like take the dive kick and then guess parry, like, after he got hit with the dive kick,
Right.
he's willing to do
Because
that.
there are so few people that understand just how bad dive kick is in a lot of situations if it's
Right.
not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it's not perfect, Yun's -3, so he's forced to throw.
Mm-hmm.
And if he doesn't throw, he has to have dive kick at a spacing that gives him a frame trap.
Right. Which is pretty incidental, it turns out, right? Because if you're moving, right, if the opponent's moving, it's hard to space that out unless they're in
Right.
the corner.
And this is also, like online versus offline Yun. It's so much easier to do offline.
Mm-hmm.
Like controlling your dive kicks and stuff. So
Yeah.
combo. That's the Issei right there.
Yeah. I was gonna say, it's funny because you mentioned how weak dive kick is in not in typical situations, but in more common situations that people think. And I think the strongest dive kicks are usually the ones that whiff. Like the
Oh
ones
yeah.
that you're causing a 50-50 on wake up, or the ones that you whiff right in front of your opponent.
Most people don't understand this, but when you do dive kicks, like light kick dive kicks, that was sick.
That was OD.
Like the dive kick that he just did there, the rejump there is pretty safe, right? Jump
Right.
parry. It's guaranteed for free. So then you get a mix-up. But the other dive kicks where you're whiffing like that, if you were to freeze frame, Michael blocked, and it puts him into proximity guard, so he can't do anything after that.
Right. He can't walk away. He can't walk out of throw range.
Nope, he can't walk out of throw range, and he has to hard commit to throw. And if he hard commits to throw and show is one little bit of spacing back, then he's going to be able to whiff punish it.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny because walking away from Yun is what causes that spacing. Oh my god, this is why Chun is so good, right here.
You'll notice also when he is close to Yun, and Yun jumps, a lot of times he'll walk forward. The reason for this is the same reason that Deshiken does it, is because it sets up Yun for a negative dive kick regardless of the dive kick that he does. So it forces Yun to be more respectful with his jumps.
Right.
And then he has to go for empty jumps, he has to go for whiff dive kicks, he has to go for neutral jump heavy punch, and a lot of these things are parryable at the same time.
Yeah. And Michael just kind of showed his a little bit of like learning, and experience there. Like I wouldn't say inexperience, but just a bad call to do spinning bird kick against the twins, just because they can so easily low profile it and get a full like punish.
Yep. So another thing that Michael does that not a lot of people do, is that when he's using, I just saw what he did. God damn it. I just completely lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry.
It's all good. It's all right. We'll keep it going. It'll come back.
Oh yeah. On parries.
Okay.
Michael. Most Chuns don't do proper punishes. Michael knows the buttons that when certain things get parried, he can sweep.
Right.
And that's very important for Chun because it's the only way that she gets a knockdown outside of throw.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think sweep is so underrated by Chun-Li players. A lot of, and even just in pressure, like when they're pressuring their opponent, it just does so much for you. It like blows up crouch tech. It blows up a lot of crouching buttons. It blows up just trying to jump away. Like, it does a lot. Oh my god, Show. Yeah, he responds pretty quickly, but even then he was almost dead both games that he won,
Right.
He could never.
So, Show is one of those people that he gets that one heavy punch and he's immediately going into Daipon loop, and the reason for that is because he just does pressure that normally goes into Daipon loop anyway. So like his Daipon loop is an auto confirm for him.
Right.
Because of just the decisions that he makes inside of Ganejin is either like fierce into Kara fierce or like fierce into Kara crouching medium kick into Kara fierce.
And so if it happens to hit, he's doing it already. He's like,
right.
He's going through the loop anyway.
Yeah.
Is that something you've
because
implemented,
it's something that
or you want to? Rather, you think it's
I
worth it?
this is a conversation I actually had with Issei, where like some players don't think that it's worth it, but
Mm.
others do. And the two players that do it are Ushi and Sho, and
Mm-hmm.
Twin does it as well. So
Yeah.
like
Right. Right.
3 of the top 5 yuns use these sort of strings. Like, oh, that was so sick.
Yeah. Could he have
Um,
could he have done EX shoulder to kill there, do you think?
he could have
Okay.
for sure. Um, but
So you're saying like you were saying that if a majority of the young players that are successful do this like do
so
the
pressure,
Daipon loop for
the,
pressure.
it's not Daipon loop for pressure. It's because of the decisions that you can make off of it.
Mm.
Because of how recovery canceling works for
Mhm.
Genei-jin, like the fierce, the best person to watch as far as doing these sort of pressure stuff is Sho and Ushi because of the variance that they have in their decisions after their Daipon move,
Mm.
their
So what's an
keeper.
example?
So
So
the
what are
best
maybe
example
like
is like,
three options, three common options.
okay, so the best example is there's one situation where Ushi will do fierce, and then he has a couple options, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do forward fierce and catch a jump as a slight delay. He can do another Kara fierce and then whatever. He can literally just hold forward to walk forward and Zempo you if you're just trying to read the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Or he can do forward fierce, recovery cancel, fierce punch, hit confirm, no fierce punch, micro step forward, crouching light kick into forward fierce. So if the crouching light kick hits, then he gets a confirm. If the crouching light kick is blocked, he goes for a Zempo.
Okay.
So it's like the same situation forces like 8 different options. And that's another thing that a lot of yuns haven't done up until the past like 2 years, where after a Zisho in the corner, you can do palm, walk palm against some of the characters in the game.
Mm. Like
They Boss calls it like the Reiwa combo.
oh, that's tough. That dive kick.
Yeah.
That's just knowledge that he fucking blocked it.
He
Nice. Is that super jump?
Michael got lucky that he didn't punish his forward roundhouse
Mm.
because twins crouch it, so they get a free punish.
Right. What that last Zempo tension, was that a super jump canceled Zempo tension? Because you saw Chun-Li's throw whiff.
If Chun-Li's throw whiff, then yes.
Yeah, that's some tech. That's tech that I don't see people really using other than you.
There's only a couple people that use it.
Yeah.
There's, I mean, Issei told me that he doesn't do it, but like the few people that I know that do it are Sho, Ushi, Derun, and myself.
Hmm. So no Americans on that train yet. Sho, was this the first and last lead that
really,
Sho got?
I think so actually. But like it's really hard. Actually, the person that showed me the proper way to do it is a Yang player from Europe named Cartola.
Oh, shout outs.
It's really hard to properly do because when you super jump cancel a Yun Zempo, you have to do it 2 frames after the jump starts. So you're canceling like very late.
Right, you can't do it too quickly.
Because of the different variables that there are, as far as where you're hitting your opponent with the dive kick, you have different amounts of frames that you're going to fall. So like there's so many variables to making it work properly that like you have to be perfect. So this is why I was saying in a vacuum and under task conditions, Yun is super jump canceling that rock paper scissors situation more often, and then your opponent's just going right into set play.
Nice dash up. You see Michael kind of being more comfortable, being a little bit more aggressive. But again, that wake up EX spinning bird. Oh no!
He messed up. Oh my god.
Damn.
See, this is why it's just like this is not normal show.
Right.
His execution is never this bad. And I mean, he's doing Daipon loop, he's doing other things, and we're saying, or I'm saying, bad execution. But
Right.
that's just, Sho is one of those people that, because of how long he's been doing Daipon loop and how much he's mastered it, he uses Daipon loop as a way to streamline and dumb down the decisions necessary in Grenade.
Right. Like a way to close out distance kind of in a ubiquitous way. Like regardless of what's going on, the Daipon loop is going to get him close enough to get that mix up.
Yes, and also just in general as far as like follow-ups, he'll use Daipon loop in situations that will allow him to go for resets. He uses Daipon loop against standing opponents. You don't have to memorize what's best as far as combo routes.
Right.
You're doing those. And if your execution's high enough, it's either the max damage or it's close enough to the equal damage that just going for a Daipon loop is the best decision. If you can minimize your thought process of what comes next, then you can think about what you're going to do after you complete what you're doing.
Yeah, like you like your focus doesn't have to be on the route. It's on what you've noticed, right? Like what adjustments you're making on wake up and stuff like that. Like that's what helped me kind of improve my offense was playing Yang for a while, because Yang is very unique in that he gets the same follow up basically from any good read that you make offensively.
Right.
So what it does is that because you're gonna end up with slashes at the end of the day, like it really gets you to notice your opponent's like pattern of defense, like more so than other characters, because he's literally running you through the same spacing all the time.
So an important thing here is Dakai, forward fierce. It's only +6, so any button after it's a guaranteed frame trap.
That's +6. Oh, okay, gotcha.
It's only +6. So if you press a button afterward, you're gonna get hit. And this is actually a conversation that I had with Boss, where I asked him why does he use Dakai more than any other Yun, and he's like, players like to press buttons, and I asked him if it was because of the frame data, and he's like, because you're only +6, your next decision, no matter what you do, if you walk, if you delay, if you do whatever, lets your opponent have that time to make that decision and get punished for it.
So
sure, they
you're
correctly.
So you're saying that he does it because it puts them in a position where they're gonna. Oh no, he picked the wrong super.
No, it's because they're swapping sides.
Oh, okay. I was like, oh shit, he's gonna run through this with Yoho.
I think they're swapping sides at least.
Probably right. It's for the Michael's the first 1 to 5
Oh no,
wins.
they're just staying the same.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so you're saying that he does that toward fierce palm in order to, like, the opponent is forced to make a decision after they block it?
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, because that's a good fucking move. I know Issei prefers stand roundhouse, and he uses that a lot, but...
Well, I'm talking about in Ganesian.
Oh, in Ganesian you're saying. Oh, okay. I thought you just meant in neutral. All right, yeah.
No, in Ganesian. Because it's +6. So the thing that
and the frame data is different, right? Or is it +6 like when he's not in Ganesian too?
No.
It's a little different, right?
Yeah, so in Ganesian, forward fierce is +6, and in normal situation it's -7, so Chun can super it on reaction. So it's why you use stand roundhouse, because stand roundhouse is -5, so
right.
You have less wiggle room as far as getting that punish.
Right.
Even though it's still negative enough for it to be punishable.
But it's hard. It's hard to react to. Like you need to I think you need to be looking for that.
Yes.
You need to palm is just easier to react to. Just has like a bigger animation, a larger startup. So
yeah.
Like
I mean, standing roundhouse is 14 frame startup and forward fierce is 17.
Yeah.
So.
And just like the way that it doesn't trick the eye, like forward fierce is so obviously forward fierce as soon as you press it.
Right.
Michael's corner pressures.
Michael with that MOV corner pressure.
Right. Yeah, and yeah, the stand jab pressure is peak MOV. That's SBO 2007.
Right.
2008
A lot
MOV.
of people don't understand why Chun-Li's okizeme is so strong.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I have a video where I go over a lot of like the misconceptions about Oki, and I explain, you know, spacing for Chun is the most important thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like her ability to change what her options are while maintaining the same technical options is important.
Right.
So like up close, she has stand roundhouse, back fierce, crouching medium kick, you know, stand medium punch, all these different ways of getting into super. But if she backs up, she still has back fierce and crouching medium kick,
Mm-hmm.
and they're both going to hit you. So like you have to worry about high low, and you also have to worry about throw because of Kara throw, regardless of where she's standing.
Mm.
So she can like basically turn it into a blender by doing that walk back that MOV loves.
Right. And it's all safe pressure.
Right.
There's not a hint of risk in any of that, other than you know, the obvious guest parry. But I think that's what makes the MOV you know, walk back so strong, is that it's harder to guest parry after you've woken up. You know, like to go from blocking to get, you know, to parry is a lot different than waking up and parrying, because you don't have that throw invincibility.
So one of the important things about playing against Yun is rounds like that first round are going to happen.
Sure. Yeah.
You just have to accept that that's part of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, the 2 guest Dudley rounds, those happen.
Mm-hmm.
2 guest Yang rounds, those happen.
The
2
Chun-Li.
guest Chun rounds,
Yeah.
like, you know, it's very similar to like Dragon Ball or Marvel, where
Right.
you typically have 2 or 3 wrong
It's
decisions.
just one of those rounds. That's what they call it. Just one of those games. That's it. You got to move on. Yeah.
So the one thing that separates the best Yuns from the middle of the pack is their ability to Zempo at all different points and get relatively maximized damage.
Mm.
Because if you're scared of Zempo early, you're going to be making decisions. If you're scared of Zempo late, you're going to be making decisions. So a lot of the things that Yun can do are mind games in Ganejin, which if you're doing the same sort of pressure and only going for Zempo at the end, there's no mind game.
Mm-hmm.
The mind game is he going to, you know, try to do crouching medium kick forward fierce, or is he going to try to do, you know, Zempo?
Right.
That's like it. But like that's why also you'll see players like Sho, Boss, Yakun, all of them, they'll use Ganejin all the way to the end.
What do you mean?
Right? They'll not go for Zempo.
Oh, okay, okay.
To show you that, you know, yeah, I'm willing to just continually go for these hit confirm baits.
Right. And then they'll whip out an early Zempo.
Oh, and then you're like, okay, well, now he just took 30% of my life, and
Getting the meter back too.
He has 20% of his meter back, and now he has Oki, and it's just like, oh, well, here comes the set play. What's the decision? That dive kick was sick.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah, Michael.
So even though that's not a good, you know, showcase of it, where he just let the dash punch rip,
Yeah.
Sho, unlike a lot of other Yuns, has the crouching medium kick confirmed down to a science.
Mm.
Like, his confirms with that are so strong by comparison to like some of the other Yuns that he can stay at spacings and contest with that button and make you fear things that other Yuns might not be able to.
Mm. Right, because one of the primary ways that you can defend against Yun is to walk away from him, and if you can stop that,
Yun is
right,
you know, comfortable walking up and doing crouching medium kick dash punch
and getting a whole knockdown out of it, then
and then he's got set play, and you know, if you're mid screen, he's probably got the corner.
Mm-hmm. That was a nice. I thought Michael was gonna do it to him again. I thought he was gonna steal another one.
A very important part of this matchup is Yun's throw and how far towards the corner it forces Chun-Li.
Right, and then if she quick rolls, right, it gives them even more space.
It gives him even more space. And if she quick rolls while she's in the corner, then you get a dive kick on her face, and then you get a left-right mix-up depending on what button you press.
Right.
Which not a lot of Yuns use either.
Yeah. It's... Oh my god. I love the sweep after the parry.
Right. A lot of people don't play Third Strike like it's a Street Fighter game. They don't use spatial control. And Michael showing with Chun-Li right here that spatial control is one of the most important things. And that's also another misconception about Yun, is people think of him as a rushdown monster, but
No.
the actual real reason why Yun is so strong is his spatial control with dive kicks, his far kicks, and,
Right.
you know, his buttons are undervalued by
Yeah.
a lot of players, especially outside of Japan.
Yeah, well, one afternoon in Tokyo will show you just just how important, you know, his buttons are, you know, and how unlike a rushdown character he is, you know.
But this is important to show. Like, if you notice, when Sho gets a confirm in Ganejin, the round is almost always his.
Right.
So it's on Michael to make sure that Yun doesn't get what he's meant to do. He wanted to activate there. He
Yeah.
missed it.
I like that.
But-
We wasted time on the Ganesian there. We're not
Yeah.
going for the follow-up. See, little things. It's the little
Great.
things. Oh, no. Yeah, he has so much of MOV in him.
Oh yeah.
Just little,
I mean,
these little tricks. These little...
when I was over there, he was literally just, his butt was down in a chair right next to MOV whenever MOV was playing.
Fuck. That's the dream right there.
Imagine having MOV as your teacher, Frankie.
Oh, man. I might be playing Street Fighter 5 right now, unfortunately, if that was the case.
I remember being at you were there with me. We had this conversation where MOV was at the tournament in Chicago. Combo Breaker.
Oh, okay.
MOV and Haitani were there and they wouldn't enter the tournament.
Yeah, dude, so upset. I was mad.
Does that play?
But that's the new school pressure, right? Of like having to play peak performance of these newer games.
So another example of pressure that like Yuns don't do that Sho, Ushi, and like the very top Yuns do. After the palm, after the Kobu, he did Kara crouching light kick to get back into range for pressure or Zempo.
So how does crouching light kick? Like, how do you execute that?
Standing medium punch, far medium punch, into crouching light kick.
Okay.
The palm itself just gives you perfect spacing for it. Another thing that you'll notice top Yuns do is they'll use crouching medium kick multiple times in a row in Ganejin as opposed to going for like lights and stuff. Because a lot of times, and they'll vary the timing. And, you know, Boss told me about this where they'll do this because the opponent fears the forward fear, so they fear, you know, the other sort of decisions. And that slight micro delay means that if you're close enough, you have the ability to walk up in Zempo. And they're basically trying to force their opponent to make that decision, or that second medium kick will hit.
Gotcha.
Like, timing variance is so important with Ganejin. But also you need perfect pressure. That's another example. Dakai, Kara crouching light kick. To get back into pressure. Like, that's the sort of thing that, like, you'll see Sho do, or you'll see Uchi do, but not a lot of other Yuns
Oh boy.
do.
Oh my god, Michael.
He's
a thief.
He definitely is a
He's
thief.
a thief in the night, but it's so sick. Like he did that toward roundhouse, that super
That
risky
fucking
toward
throw.
Yeah.
That fucking throw, and then it was all downhill after that. He hit him once there, and Sho was just like, "Yeah, I'm back throwing him," and then nah.
This is that practicality we were talking about.
There's one round, I might have already passed, where he ends the round with like back fierce, and then like Sho doesn't punish it because, you know, Lloyd and I were watching this together when it happened, and when Chun does back fierce, both he and I thought that you could stand light kick it, right? And Sho even goes for the stand light kick, and we thought that he just did it too late.
Mm.
And we're just like, oh, his reactions weren't on point. And that's not the case. You just literally can't stand light kick it. So like back fierce's Chun on your opponent's wake up is so strong. Like her having such good buttons that have good pushback, even if it's negative, like that's something that a lot of players don't think about with their moves is the pushback that they get, even if the move's negative.
Right.
Like regardless of the game.
Right, because as long as it puts you in the sweet spot, it literally doesn't matter that you're negative.
So the Zeisho that he just did there was meant to catch a backdash.
Mm.
Run, Sho.
Yeah, he's content. He's content to just stand in the pocket there.
Well, the spacing right here, neither player.
Not like that.
You let it go. That's why when you parry that, you have to delay your punish. You have to.
Right. Oh my god.
Or advantageous positioning, like when he's in the corner, that's when he turns it on. And that's when he forces his opponent to make decisions. But he also knows when to just go back and let them hang themselves, right? This is something you, Lloyd, myself, and a couple other players will always tell people is, you don't have to just continually do rock, paper, scissors with your opponent.
Right.
Back up and then make them make a decision and then either counter that decision or use that information in the future.
Yeah, well, it's part of that risk reward misconception that people, who play Third Strike and maybe play other games get into, where as you're beating your opponent, they might be getting meter, maybe not, but the risk reward tends to go in their favor at a certain point, especially if you have them in the corner, right?
Right.
And particularly offline, because you're probably more willing to sit there with this idea that you can whiff punish anything that they do, or you can react properly to whatever their escape maneuver is. But
like Sho hitting him with far stand medium punch, far fierce dash punch,
right,
like 3 or 4 times after he tried to jump out. Well, he had Ganejin. Issei is like the god of that as well, where he'll catch you with like far medium punch, far medium kick, and then like continue.
Yeah, and hit confirm that into it's a big damage. But it's what I think gets lost in the whole Chun versus Yun thing is that like the reasons why Chun-Li is so good don't get represented well in an online setting.
Absolutely not.
Whereas the things that make Yun cheap get overrepresented in an offline setting, in an online setting, where it's harder to really like because of that, people get this, I think players get a bad idea of why it is these characters are so strong. And so when they hop offline, if they ever do, it tends to be a very different experience.
Right.
And we got a version of that when we first went to Japan almost, right? Where, the first, I kind of liken playing offline in America and then playing offline in Japan as very similar to playing online in America and then playing offline in America.
Yeah, it's completely different because the mindsets are different, right? Like, and, not for nothing, but if you just log online and you play any random Joe Schmo, the mind games that you're going to be playing with Joe Schmo are not the same as if you go into Tokyo, sit down at a random cabinet, and play with Joe Schmo on the other side of the cabinet. Right. The understanding of the game is just miles different.
Yeah.
So, like, specifically, like, you were talking about Yun being so strong online, but, like, it's mostly because people don't know how to exploit that he's forcing himself into bad situations, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All the dive kicks that your opponent is doing in your face are good decisions. Like, specifically, if we're talking about Yun Chun, that situation becomes rock paper scissors.
Yeah.
Yun is negative, but he still has to land, right? So you didn't parry it, you block it.
Mm-hmm.
Now Yun can throw and you can throw and you go back to neutral. Cool. Yun can try to press a button and Chun throws. Chun wins.
Mm-hmm.
Chun tries to throw, Yun jumps. Chun loses. You know, Yun tries to jump, Chun presses stand roundhouse. Yun loses.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that same situation, you know, Yun does the dive kick, parries. The Chun does a stand roundhouse. Chun loses.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like every situation in Third Strike has upwards of 12 situations that can come from it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like that one situation, that one rock paper scissors shapes how the matchup gets played,
Right.
based on your opponent's tendencies. So like a perfect example is like if
And
you watch
capabilities too.
and capabilities.
Yeah.
So like if you watch Issei like against Justin, he was using like dive kick down parry a lot because Justin to go for down jab.
Right.
And this was something you and I talked about when, you know, I was looking over some footage before Combo Breaker.
Mm-hmm.
Where like certain people have very specific ways that they look to do things, and Yun is a very good character, especially online, for abusing those tendencies because that -3 is technically not -3. Like you can't super it, you can't
Right.
DP it. He gets to land for free,
Mm-hmm.
and then comes the decision. And a lot of people don't understand that. Like they don't understand that you can move forward and force these rock paper scissors situations, which are technically at the advantage of the person on the ground.
Right.
Um,
Because
they ju-
it's not a zero sum game. You know,
no,
it's you know you're walking forward. You know with with the intent of putting Yun in a worse situation than if
right.
you were trying to parry him. But that idea is very foreign to intermediate players. Like
It's
what? I'm gonna
very
get hit
foreign.
on
Even
purpose? Like
it's
what? Or
yeah,
it's
even to a lot of high level players,
yeah,
that's
sure,
something
for
that they
sure.
wouldn't. They don't want to take that
Mhm.
risk. They don't want to make that decision because it's not something they're comfortable with.
Mhm.
But like when you watch the tippy top players play against Yun, when they're playing at the spacings where Yun can get a dive kick, they'll walk into spacing for that dive kick to get hit, and if the Yun neutral jumps and presses a button, they're blocking it,
Mhm.
or they're, you know, crouching the jump heavy punch and they're whiff punishing it, or, you know, they're well, in some situations they're walking forward and then getting uh, put in a situation where they are in proximity guard, and then they get thrown back to the corner and then they go shit. But um, it's because every situation can change so much against a character with a dive kick, whether it's Yun or Yang or Rufus or any character, you know, that can change the trajectory at which they move. There's just too many variables, and you have to put yourself in positions which allow you to negate as many of the good options as possible,
Mm.
which is something that Michael showed very, very well.
Right.
He
Right.
stays at a spacing on the screen where dive kicks don't make sense for Yun.
Mhm.
He has to force his way in. Well, yes, he concedes that Yun gets to run and build meter. He then gets to dictate the pace of the match and where it occurs.
Right.
Because when you stand at the places that he was standing, Yun can't pull that, but you can't pull it forever.
Mhm.
So like you'll see situations where he or Nuki or MOV will wait for Yun to jump back or wait for Yun to neutral jump, and then they'll dash up and they'll wait and they'll see what they're doing, because that dash up puts them at perfect spacing for roundhouse dive kick to hit them where they can late parry it,
Mhm.
or they can just stand there. So that's why a lot of those times that you were seeing like late dash ups after like movement decisions from Show is because he's positioning himself to react to what the Yun does.
Mhm.
If the Yun gets the meter, that's the worst possible situation that can happen for the Chun,
Mm.
right? I mean, and that's not a bad situation.
Right.
But like, you know, in this matchup in particular, a lot of people don't understand just how important your opponent blocking your stuff matters.
Yeah.
Because Yun gains so much more bar when you're blocking his moves.
Mhm.
And Chun gains so much more bar when you're blocking her moves. And her moves all put her at positions where she's technically at advantage.
Yeah.
even if she's negative.
Yeah, and that's something
So it's
that I
like,
liked about what Michael was doing. Like he was doing like crouch medium kick into fireball, sometimes, or sometimes he would do just crouch medium kick into crouch medium kick again.
that's another. Oh, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Um, that's the situation. It wasn't back fierce. It was he ends the round with crouch medium kick fireball,
Okay.
right? And Show blocks it.
Okay.
And both Lloyd and I thought that you could punish the fireball on block with stand light kick, but you can't.
Mm.
So it's one of those things where if you're not looking for the red parry, it's completely safe for Chun to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And since he hadn't shown it for most of the set, it was basically a free decision. And that fireball, even though it's a little bit negative and you're positioned outside of his decisions that can be profitable, all you have to do is option parry afterward. And if they make a late decision thinking they can punish, then they're screwed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what happens.
Yeah. It's funny too because Michael was using it a lot early on, and then he
Mhm.
didn't show it for for like three
For
or
like,
four games there. And that's something else too, right? And I'm thinking about it now. Now that you made the point about walking into dive kick range.
mhm.
When you watch when I watch Deshikin play, and I've seen him play Yuns at game versus, and something that he does is that, right, like he'll intentionally walk in. He's not trying to get hit. His intention is to parry, right? Because if you parry a dive kick with Ken, especially if it's up close, you get a free
Medium
jab.
thirsty.
Yeah, or jab DP, which is what he does. I think he cuts down on the variable that way, like on the timing that he needs to punish it. He'll go for the like for the lower damage option, but it's guaranteed every time.
That's something that a lot of people don't understand as well as part of fighting games is that consistency is important.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that took me a long time to realize, right? Even though I'm consistent with my fancy combos for the most part,
Mm-hmm.
um, you're better off doing the thing that gets you the best result.
Yeah.
And that's not always that you're getting that damage. It's
Right.
like beginner Ken players. The most frustrating thing as a veteran third strike player is seeing beginner Ken players try to learn Kara DP first.
Yeah.
I've had conversations where I've tried to teach people how to play Ken, where even though I don't play Ken, I understand how the character functions,
Mm-hmm.
his tools, and all that stuff. So like I'll tell them what to do, and I was like, as part of this, I want you to learn to do, your punishes instead of doing crouching medium kick DP
Mm-hmm.
mid screen like against the characters that you can. I want you to do crouching medium kick DP dash.
Mm-hmm.
And then make a decision because you can walk out of throw range, you can do a whole bunch of different things, you can set up cross ups, you can there's a
Mm-hmm.
plethora of decisions that can be made that give your opponent different looks and force them to react in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a better tool to take the less damage route if it's the most consistent choice.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've played games where I'll whiff a dive kick in your face and you'll do medium fierce, and then the light punch DP won't hit, and then you
Right.
get punished.
Exactly.
So it's like if you had just a medium punch into light punch DP, it would have worked.
Exactly. And then here's something else too, is that because he's looking for that parry, right, into the jab DP. One thing that I'm beginning to understand that was a weakness in my game was that even though he's walking forward with the intention to parry dive kick,
Mm-hmm.
when it doesn't happen, I used to look at that as a bad thing. Like when I got hit by the dive kick, it would be a moment of frustration.
But it's
Whereas
not.
it shouldn't be, right?
It
Like
should.
it shouldn't be perceived that way. Like you're still in a good position to make a advantageous choice there,
Right.
but that's something that is not intuitive, right? And that's something that I think a lot of people struggle with, especially
Right.
people learning the game. That's that you said it perfectly before, where it's not about making the best decision, or it's not about finding a catch-all solution. It's about trying to minimize the amount of variable good decisions that your opponent can exploit at a given moment. You're trying to take as many away as possible.
And that's why option selects are so strong, but they're also still weak
Mm-hmm.
because they can be exploited.
Right. Very much so.
If the opponent's guard jumping, you let them jump and then you deal with it.
Right.
Or you you know delay your decisions and then you hit them, or you end up going low in a situation where they're doing like high parry SGGK, or Chuns like to do wake up down parry SGGK.
Yeah.
And if you wake up with Yun and you do medium fierce stand fierce or something, and they're just like, what?
Yeah, it's funny because in that line of thinking, Michael, to me, he seems like an MOV that's like a few notches, short of MOV's prime, but it's
Yep.
just, the movement is there. The sick shit that MOV likes to do, like the attempts were there. Like
Hmm.
he tried to red parry, Yun's 1 2 3, and but he doesn't always choose the best, the best punish. Like there was a moment there where he crouch parried Yun's low forward, but Yun didn't have any meter, so he could
Hmm.
have just did low forward super, but he did low jab and he tried to do low jab into super, and
Yeah.
it didn't come out. And then later on that round, when Yun was in Ganesian, he low parried, or I think he stand parried Yun's toward fierce, and
Hmm.
or stand fierce, and tried to low forward it instead of low jab, where low jab was the right decision there, and then it
Right.
got eaten up. So it's
Right.
like it seems he's like a human version of Prime MOV, where
Yeah.
MOV is this wizard, who at least back then always seemed to make the right decision.
Yeah.
But you could just see like how he's becoming that in a way, like he's working his way up to it, and it's like nice to see it in motion.
So like on my first trip over there, I played Kei, the
Hmm.
Chun-Li from Osaka, like
Yeah.
the best Chun in Osaka. And he played me like 52 games and he bodied the shit out of me.
Mm.
But like watching Michael play reminded me a lot of how Kei approaches the matchup.
Mm. How does he approach it like differently than other
Very,
Chuns?
very spacing specific. He stays right where he needs to be and he doesn't take extra risk.
Mm.
So like those jumps that we're talking about, those are extra risk.
Mm-hmm.
So he puts himself like the online versus offline thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you play Chun like this online, you're gonna get fucked.
You're gonna get bodied.
You're gonna get bodied because you're gonna these one of these dive kicks is gonna happen. You're gonna get thrown. You're gonna get cornered, and then you're just gonna go, well, shit. Now what do I
Yeah.
do?
And
I'm gonna
everything
get
is a pure 50-50 online, so
yeah,
a typical like throw into the corner isn't equal, as if you were offline. Like everything becomes dangerous
right.
on wake up
It's
because
like
you just have to make the choice.
right, and like crouch tech and all sorts of things, like all these different option selects that cover things, like they matter a lot more offline than they do online
Mm-hmm.
because you have that extra little bit of time to react. You have that little bit of you have like those extra 2 frames or whatever to like, okay, now I throw,
Mm.
versus I have to pre-throw because I know that there's lag
Right.
and this, that, and the other thing. But unfortunately, we have this whole pandemic thing and there's not much that we can do as far as playing offline.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as Yun goes, there are very few scenes in the country that have a active Yun player.
Mm-hmm. Or active Chuns for that matter too.
Yeah, there's some sort of like Chun and Yun are the boogeymen of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like people seem to think that it's incredibly uncool to play these characters, but in the end, someone has to, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't have a scene that has no Chun expect to go to a tournament and win.
Yeah. Or do well or have fun. Honestly,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
gotta have some point of reference. That's what hopefully we're doing. Maybe we'll encourage somebody with this talk here to pick them up and to try it out. Because at least with Chun, it's fun to win.
it is.
And Chun
But
gives you an avenue for that. And with Yun, he's like a lab oriented monster that you'll get better technically at the game just by
yeah,
practicing his stuff. He
I
has hit
thought
confirms, right? He has, tough combos. He has set play, Oki. Like the way that he approaches offense would get you better with offense with any character.
right.
So even if you switched him for a while, you still get something good out of it.
And like even though Yun's a very technical character, you can play him very basic and do well as long as you have a good understanding of
Right.
why specific decisions need to be made.
Mm-hmm.
That's why,
Look
you
at
know,
Issei.
yeah,
Yeah, he plays like a plain tofu version of Yun,
right. Like
and it works
I
so
remember
beautifully.
talking to Issei and talking to him about Derun, and he was like, "Yeah, Derun is like me with execution."
uh, yeah, that's Issei being cheeky, but Issei definitely knows that he plays a a plain bread
Yeah,
version of
I
Yun.
saw him. I saw
Low
him do
effort.
Daipon loop the other day.
No, oh, that's him bored. That's
I
pandemic Issei. He's just
Yeah,
bored.
I saw him do Daipon loop in an online game where
Oh
he
sh-
actually like hit the whole combo, and I
oh
was like, "Oh
shit.
my god!"
He's so bored. There's
um,
never been more proof of Issei's boredom than him actually attempting Daipon loop and hitting it. Too much
but
time on
like,
his hands.
there's the things that make Chun strong are not what people think make her good. And
Exactly.
while yes, all of
Right.
her tools, all of her buttons, all of these oppressive normals that she has, yes, they're what make her strong, but it's the positioning, how you use them. It's not just I'm gonna mash fierce, I'm gonna mash back fierce, I'm gonna sweep, I'm gonna do crouching medium kick, I'm gonna look for confirms, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. Like, she's a very methodical character.
Mm-hmm.
And even though she has all of these great tools available to her, she has a lot of downsides too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when she gets thrown or knocked down against Yun or Ken or even anyone, I mean, you argued against her not really having to worry much about Ken, but that's a different story,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because Ken doesn't have, you know, command throw.
Mm-hmm.
Ken doesn't have, a lot of the decisions that make characters scared.
Yeah, he
And
doesn't
like,
he doesn't punish blocking very well.
no, because
Right.
of how far he gets pushed back.
Mm-hmm.
But, if you do like short, 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 you're at perfect positioning for certain buttons, but that also shows your opponent, okay, I can down parry for free here.
Mm-hmm.
Or like, Dudley doing short, short. He can't do anything that's fast, low, so you get a free high parry. If
Mm-hmm.
the dart shot comes or the forward medium kick, then you get that parry, and if not, then you block.
Mm-hmm.
But like, um, Chun-Li has these things that like make her super oppressive, like her frame traps or whatever. But spatial control with both of these characters is what makes them so oppressive.
Mm.
Like, if
But
you
again,
play
that's
against a gun that just rushes down, that's only going to work online.
right. I mean, and I don't know of any like more salivating thing to a veteran third strike player than playing against a beginner Chun. You know,
Oh yeah,
or even an intermediate one, like just somebody who's not necessarily on their level. It
mhm,
becomes one of the easiest matchups in the game.
yeah, and like Chun and Ken are very similar in that what they have for Oki is very forced based on their positioning.
Mm.
But what makes Chun so much stronger than Ken on Oki, in my opinion, is that she gets that walk back low forward, walk back back fierce
Mm-hmm.
that are anti guard jump. She gets that okay, you're scared carrot throw.
Mm-hmm.
Ken if he walks back, he got nothing. He got crouching medium kick, he got delay, he got weight, and that's about it.
Yeah, like Ken easily exploits like not like impatient defense, but
Yes.
a patient defensive person on offline, particularly because like throw isn't as much a threat.
Right.
Like from the same range. It's funny because functionally he gets a card throw, when you play online, because
Yeah.
you're not gonna see the walk up throw. You kind of
Right.
have to guess there. So it's kind of like as if Ken had a card throw. And
Yeah.
I think that's what people how people misconceive his strengths. Um,
Right. But that's also like another point of contention is that like people don't really understand that Oki in this game is completely based around throw.
mm-hmm.
Like, even though crouch tech exists, like everything is based on throw. All the option selects are based on throw. Like, everything is meant to deal with throw or incorporate throw in some way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Ken has back medium kick, but that's reactable, right? You
Right.
try doing that to Nika, you're gonna get red buried
Every time.
every time. But like online, that shit works free,
Yeah.
right?
It's strong offline. I
I
mean,
mean,
online is strong.
it's also strong offline
It's okay.
if your opponent isn't looking for it.
Yeah.
But that's a thing about conditioning. You have to be conditioning your opponent to be looking for other things.
Mhm.
Because your focus can't be in two places at once.
Right.
It's impossible. But like when Ken's doing his Oki and stuff, it's mostly just I'm going to either meet you, I'm going to delay my button, or I'm going to throw you.
Right.
And with Chun, it's I'm going to meet you, I'm going to delay my button, or I'm going to walk back and get the exact same decisions. So like regardless of where she is positionally, she gets the same Oki.
Yep.
Whereas Ken's Oki changes 100% based on is he 2 steps back? Is he right in your face? You know, and this goes back to the whole risk reward thing, right? Is
Mhm.
it worth it to be in your opponent's face? You know, what's the life totals like? What's the game state?
Yeah, the meter
And
situation,
like
right? Yeah.
people, especially low to intermediate players, when they get the knockdown, they go for that pressure all the time. And
Mhm.
it's just like, bro, you have a 70% life lead. You don't need to be in your opponent's
Right.
face.
Like they have meter and you don't. Like.
Right. Yeah. It's like just because you get that knockdown doesn't mean you're really at advantage.
Right.
Like it's just how
Exactly.
third
Right.
strike functions.
Yeah, and that's something that especially players that are coming from other fighting games, like don't get expressed to them. I think is
Right.
that advantage in third strike is seldom explained by the numbers, by frame data. It usually isn't. It's usually expressed via the game state, like you said.
And
Like
that's also
is this
why
one
like
decision gonna get me to my win condition? Usually, I don't know what usually is, but if you can answer that question yes, then the risk is worth it, and if it's not, then usually it's not.
right. But like one of the other things is that when you're trying to learn this game as a new player, like there's the knowledge gap is huge,
Mm.
right?
Yeah,
So like
right.
it's an uphill battle no matter what.
Yeah.
But like when you're approaching these situations and you're looking at game state and all that stuff, this is one of the only games that while frame data is important, it's one of the games where you can play by feel and have it be fine.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because the advantage and the numbers matter less than other fighting
Yeah,
games.
a lot less.
So while it's important for punishes, while it's important for those sort of things, knowing that Ken's plus after standing medium punch and plus after crouching medium punch, okay, cool. Well, Ken can do that frame trap, or he can do stand medium punch, walk forward throw. He can do stand medium punch, delay crouch medium kick, confirm. He has like a bunch of different options off of this one thing. And like frame data ain't gonna help you there.
Right.
And like even if okay, Chun's -3 off of her crouching medium kick.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well I can't punish her, but is she gonna press another button?
Mm.
Or is she gonna throw? Is she gonna do this? Is she gonna do that? Like, does Chun think that you're gonna be pressing a button? And if yes, are they gonna parry or they're gonna block?
Mm-hmm.
What type of defense do they like to use? Are they on the riskier side? Do they, go for risks based on their meter? Do they, everyone has their own little quirks.
Right.
And, when watching all of these different first attempts, you get to see a lot of these quirks, but you also get to see high level play where both players understand that changing things is required.
Mm-hmm.
So it's consistently doing the same things, but showing you the same situation enough to where the variance and the decisions that can come afterward is what makes or breaks who wins.
All right. I like it. We're coming close on time. So is there anything? When can we expect the Genki pod, man? When's that gonna
I'll,
happen? Can I do anything to help? Do you need help editing it? Do you not want to do that? I'll do it for you.
no, it's
People need to
just
see it.
I have to combine a couple audio clips and that's it.
Oh, okay.
I've mostly just been a lazy piece of shit. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, I'll do it sometime this week. It should be out by Friday.
All right, cool. That's good to hear. Is there anything else that you wanna Is there? Let's end this with if you can get one message out there to Third Strike players that are just starting the game or trying to get better, like what would it be? What would be like the fortune cookie version of?
Don't be afraid to experiment with decisions,
Mm.
because no matter what, you're already playing a game that requires you to climb a mountain. You stopping on, 10 feet up to make that different decision. Okay, do I put my hook here? Do I put it there? You know, experimentation is very important because this game, like we said, can be played by feel.
Mhm.
However, when you know enough to know that you don't know what you need to know, and that's a very convoluted, statement, but when you know what you don't know,
Mhm.
ask.
Mm.
There's enough players that are willing to give you help. But also, as a new player, you have to understand that when asking for the time of, top players or strong players or whatever, you know, they need to see that you're listening. Otherwise, their willingness to help is going to wane very fast.
Mm. And that's what this
Um,
channel's all about, right? It's about asking. It's about having questions and learning and.
so if you want to learn anything about Yun, I'm always around. I'm always willing to give information and help. My YouTube is full of guides on random little things. I have a Discord server meant just for young players, which doesn't get used all that much, but
It's
it's some place that you can ask questions, and a couple people will be willing to answer them.
all right. So we'll have all those links for you watching in the description. We'll have the Discord link. Shodokan will send me that. The YouTube and the Twitter. Is Twitter a decent place for people to contact you?
Twitter is a fine place to contact me, and almost all of my Yun stuff goes on Twitter as well.
All right.
So
Awesome.
that's at Shodokan123.
All right. We'll have those links probably on the screen and in the description. Um, but yeah, thanks, man. Thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. Thanks for
Anytime,
all the
man.
young wisdom.
I'm always looking forward to talking about the game. I get to do it too infrequently.
I hear you. We gotta make this more of a common occurrence, talking about the game and working through ideas because
That's
just in this
like
little talk has been very useful for me for when I do decide, to play the game again. Like there are
right.
things that I already have on the top of my list, as to what I'm going to be working on. So
And sorry to cut you off,
no,
but
no, it's fine. Go ahead.
you asked for what's the most important thing for a new player to do.
Yeah,
Talk about the game.
talk.
Learn to communicate,
Mm.
because that is a skill that will help you in life in all aspects, and it will help you improve at this game and any other game that you play much faster if you're able to work through problems and deal with people and communicate. Problem solving is almost always a two-way street,
Mm-hmm.
right? And especially in fighting games, everyone improves when you help each other.
Mm.
So whether you have the correct information or not, I don't care if you're spouting bullshit, but as long as you're trying to help, it's a good thing.
Mm.
Eventually, they're going to find out that the information that you're giving them is correct or not, and they'll realize if they should take your advice.
Yeah.
But in general, don't be afraid to ask questions when you're playing on Fightcade, or go into Discord servers and have conversations about characters or matchups or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Just communication is king.
I love it. We'll end it there. That's awesome.